in El Paso, Texas. We have been working for almost 10 years to build a biomedical cluster and industry in the Paso del Norte region. We can cue the presentation. But generally, what I'm going to talk to you today about is about the innovation pipeline that we are trying to create in this region. We're not trying to create one specific aspect of a biomedical industry. We really feel that we need to integrate all aspects of the biomedical industry in order to compete in the very competitive industry of biomedical innovation. And I think that we have a very good case in our region that we don't even fully recognize until we start to see all the pieces pulled together, which if we get the presentation up, we can do that. The innovation pipeline, I know this presentation by heart, so I'm just going to keep going. The innovation pipeline really has three main components. The first is discovery. It's research, it's coming up with the ideas of how to cure a certain illness or deal with a certain problem. Mostly that happens in our university settings, but we have unique places like in Julio Chu's operation where he is also developing the ideas for innovation in his own plant. So the ideas come first, not just basic science, but applied science. Concepts, innovations, inventions that we can actually take to the market. Once we have those solid innovations in hand, we need to create companies around those. You can have very strong technology with very weak companies and have a lack of success. Do you need this again? ¿Lo quieres otra vez? Okay, so we have to create strong companies around the biomedical innovations. We have to understand the market. We have to understand the financials. We have to get investment in these companies. So from discovery, we have to develop the companies. And then from there, to capture the true economic impact for our region, we have to deploy those companies from here. Deploying is really the sales, the market, the penetration, as well as the manufacturing. And I think that's where we can really distinguish ourselves. We are going to look at a few different models. We've actually looked at over 30 models from around the country and around the world for regions that have created biomedical industries to understand what elements they put together to be successful. And a lot of people ask me, what model are you following? And frankly, we're not following any one model. We are looking at honestly at who we are as a region, and then we're trying to pull together our own model with components that other communities have invented, integrated into their own thing to make something that's unique for us. My goal at the end of the day would be to have not us saying, hey, look, we became Boston or we became Salt Lake City. Rather, I want those communities to eventually look at us and say, how do we become El Paso Juarez? How can we do what they have done, because they have something unique and it is special. So I'm just going to keep going. The first model that we want to look at is Salt Lake City, Utah. Salt Lake City, Utah is the university there is one of the largest spin-outs, creates the more spin-outs than almost any other university in the country. It's almost a spin-out company per week. That's truly impressive given that that university actually receives less university funding than most other major research institutions. So they have figured out not just to do basic research, but to invent things that we can take to the market. A lot of times you have inventors who say, I'm interested in this, let me get a grant, and they do their research, they write a paper, and that's the end of the story. They've created a culture at the university to say, if I'm going to spend research dollars, I'm going to try to solve a problem that exists in our market. And once they do that, they have an opportunity to create a company around it. So they have significant startup activity supported by the university with fewer research dollars than other universities, and that's really been the key to their success, a strong university tie to the commercial market. Another example that we can look at is in Colorado. Colorado, their focus was more in creating a campus around a military base that was closed. It's the Fitzsimmons Military Base. Within this campus, they have the university, they have the private labs, they have the commercialization incubators and accelerators all around this. So they have done more in a 15-year span to grow their biomedical industry and their biomedical device employment than you could possibly imagine. If I had the slide up, I could give you the actual numbers, but it is truly significant. But a very different strategy from what Utah is doing. If we look at Memphis, Tennessee, Memphis, oh, there we go. Okay, so there was my innovation pipeline: discover, develop, deploy. Let's keep going into our case studies. We talked about Salt Lake City. As I mentioned, they have 3.6 times more specialized employment in biomedical devices in the US average. And I mentioned their lower than average research funding. Let's go on to the next slide. And we talked about the key to their success really being the University of Utah acting as an actor, or as really a driver of innovation. Let's go on to the next slide. Okay, I was out of order, but Memphis, that's where we were. Memphis, they really specialized in orthopedic devices and spinal implants. This was largely because FedEx, the company, the logistics company, they're located in Memphis. They created a $150 million institute focused on spinal implants and orthopedic devices. So having private industry invest in research is a really big key that they have too. They have grown 50% since 1999, and they're one of the top 10 producers of biomedical devices in the region. The second largest US orthopedic device manufacturer is there in Memphis. I don't think of biomedical device manufacturing when I think of Memphis until you start to study and see what they've done. Go on to the next slide. So what they've done is that they've leveraged a strength in one particular area, tried to pull all of the different actors to focus on that specific area, and then they have aggressively marketed the region to the region's strength in this. Let's go on to the next one. We talked a little bit about the Denver Boulder cluster. They have employment in biomedical devices and diagnostics. They grew almost 10% in a 5-year period. So it's truly significant to see when you make your investment, when you focus, and when you start to work together to create something, how quickly these things can grow. They've focused again on the Fitzsimmons campus. Let's go on. The Fitzsimmons, they've repurposed their facility. It's centrally located. What's in this campus spans the entire innovation pipeline, from university to commercialization to deployment. So a very interesting example. We can go on. And then there's San Diego, probably the one that we're most familiar with. San Diego's biomedical device industry is truly large, 3.5 times the US average employment in biomedical devices in the San Diego region. They're employing over 27,000 people, or 20% of their employed region is focused in this. So that's obviously large, it's been growing. But what's really interesting is that they have taken advantage of the biomedical manufacturing that's happening in Tijuana. Tijuana has one of the largest biomedical manufacturing clusters, and they've been able to work with that to grow their own industry. Let's move on. They also have a program called Connect, and that is one of the strongest commercialization incubators in the biomedical space. We can move on to the next slide. So, using Connect, using their tie to the biomedical device industry in Tijuana, they've been able to create one of the largest industries in the whole San Diego area, obviously also fed by major research institutions in that area. Okay, so then looking at all of this, sometimes you would think, why would we even want to compete with these people who have done so much investment and have so much history in that? But I think that our case is truly interesting. Let's go on. In the Paso Norte region, on the El Paso side, in about a 10-year span, we have invested over $2 billion in capital investment in life sciences. When you talk about us as a region and stop talking about us as El Paso, Juarez, or Las Cruces, we can boast over 6 institutions of higher education. We can say we have 3 medical schools. And when you start talking about our region like that, you can truly start to say we have a lot going on in the world of life sciences and in innovation. Now with the technology hub in Juarez, and you add the Arrowhead, the technology hub in downtown El Paso, and the Medical Center of the Americas, we have 4 technology incubators functioning in our region as well. So Texas Tech, it was merely a 2-year program for the Texas Tech Lubbock School in 1973. By 2013, we are now an independent health sciences university with a medical school, a nursing school, and a graduate school of biomedical sciences. And in a 10-year span, the research program there has grown from $5 million a year to $23 million a year. Go on to the next slide. In a 10-year, from 2006 to present, we are seeing $180 million of capital investment on that campus. And along with that, you have to recruit the physicians, the researchers, and the professors to fill those buildings, which is exciting. Let's go on. On our same campus, speaking of the Fitzsimmons concept, on the Medical Center of the Americas campus, we have University Medical Center, El Paso Children's Hospital, the Psychiatric Center, and our own foundation. But these 2 institutions, UMC and Children's, has invested $425 million since 2005. Let's go on. UTEP is a huge partner. UTEP's history is more in engineering and mining, but in the last 10 years, they have invested $270 million in capital infrastructure, mainly in the life sciences, biological sciences, chemistry and computer sciences, College of Health Sciences and Nursing, and now they're building a new interdisciplinary research building. When they expand their engineering building, they added a bioengineering annex, which is exciting. They've also grown their research portfolio in 10 years from $30 million a year to over $80 million a year. New Mexico State University, they have about $200 million a year in annual research, beating all the El Paso institutions. A quarter of that comes from the National Institutes of Health, health-related research. They have Arrowhead Innovation Center with over 14 employees working in their incubator. And just in 2014, they announced that in 2016, they will be opening their medical school, a Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine school that will enhance our entire region, a $60 million facility. William Beaumont Army Medical Center, they are putting $1 billion investment into their new hospital complex that will have inpatient, outpatient, vivarium with even large animal testing and research labs. Huge addition to our region if we can start to partner better with our military. Moving on. The hospitals of Providence, Sierra Providence, Providence East, and the Northwest, they are investing $550 million in their hospitals over a 10-year period. And then they've also added in all sorts of ambulatory surgical centers, and they are leading the clinical research for our region as well. Going on. HCA has Las Palmas and Del Sol in El Paso. They have invested a lot in the technology within their existing buildings so that we can offer the latest and greatest in surgical techniques and oncology and radiation. Next slide. Other private hospitals have emerged in El Paso, like a recent $3 million investment in a long-term neuro rehab hospital. In Juarez, we've seen Star Medica open and Los Angeles open within the last 10 years. And then the launch of a biomedical cluster that Julio alluded to a little bit earlier, focusing on medical tourism and biomedical device manufacturing. Next slide. And through all of this, the Medical Center of the Americas, our foundation, was born. We have master planned the campus from a 140-acre campus to a 440-acre campus. We rezoned the campus so that the city is providing all sorts of incentives for the development of this campus. This morning we were told that the city of El Paso changed their incentives to attract companies to El Paso. If you're a new company moving to El Paso, they give you incentives in terms of tax advantages. You get 50% more of their regular incentive packages if you locate on this campus. So really trying to attract more business to the campus. Moving on. And then 2011 and 12 was a significant change for us. The city of El Paso awarded our foundation 75% of their Economic Development Impact Fund. We entered into an 18-year contract with the city of El Paso where they give us $2.6 million to $3 million a year. And with those funds, we are tasked with launching a biomedical industry and developing the campus. So what we've done with that is we built the Gail Grieve Hunt School of Nursing building with some of the most advanced simulation labs that you will ever find. And we're building our Cardwell Collaborative, and we're building all kinds of programs to help develop the biomedical industry in the region. Moving on. We are building the Cardwell Collaborative. This is a picture of construction in progress. This is a 60,000 square foot private research building and commercialization building that we are building, a $29 million project where we can have startup companies from around the region incubate in this, not have to build their own lab space. We have wet labs, dry labs, computing capability, and office space, conference space, collaboration space. So if you drive on I-10 by Reynolds and Paisano, that's the big building going up right there on the Medical Center of the Americas campus. Go ahead. This is an image of what it will look like when it's done in just a few short months. Next slide. So all of that great stuff is happening in El Paso and Juarez in the industry, but then we have this gem, which is the Juarez manufacturing industry, with over 350 maquilas in the area, and all the advantages that you've built since the 80s and before that in terms of your logistics and the education of plant managers and the growth and development in that, that's something that a lot of communities do not have access to and a huge asset for our community. Moving on. We already have a significant number of biomedical manufacturers in the Juarez region, so it's not something that we have to learn to do anew. It exists. It's how do we partner better with them? How do we grow with them? How do we expand from pure manufacturing to manufacturing with research and development and product development as the Chu family has done? Going on. And I just mentioned that. So I think that they're a fantastic example of how it can be done and how they can vertically integrate in manufacturing and add in the R&D and product development. And it's a huge testament to what we can do in the region. And what I like is that they partner with groups in El Paso already, like with the Texas Tech physicians who might come and work with the devices that they're developing there. And that's what we need to create more of, is the cross-border integration and utilization of each other's resources so that we elevate the entire region. Going on. So an exciting thing that we just approved about an hour ago at my board meeting is a program that we are going to launch. The purpose of this program is really to bring the entrepreneurial aspect of the biomedical industry here, and not just the biomedical industry, but really of high technology, which is what we're all trying to do. We have manufacturing. How do we get to high-tech manufacturing? How do we create innovations in the areas that are important to us? Life sciences, advanced manufacturing, clean energy, water technologies, border trade, cybersecurity. These are all things that affect all of us in this region. How do we really create an event in our region that stimulates an entrepreneurial activity? So what we've done is we've partnered with the Center for Advancing Innovation, a nonprofit in Washington, D.C. She has run 2 challenges already that are similar to what we're going to be doing here. But we are going to be licensing innovations, patents from the National Institutes of Health and NASA and bringing those here to our region. We've created this program that even opens the portfolio of what we're doing outside of life sciences so that all the region can benefit from this. Go ahead. This is obviously way too busy, but what the program is going to be, we're going to run this program for 4 years. Year 1 is advanced manufacturing, year 2 is life sciences, year 3 is clean energy and water technologies, and year 4 is border trade and cybersecurity. We're going to bring in 10 inventions from NASA and the National Institutes of Health in those categories. So year 1, advanced manufacturing. There's 24,000 inventions in those portfolios. We're going to find the 10 best ones that fit advanced manufacturing, that best fit our region because of the education, because of the manufacturing, because of our industry, for whatever reason. We're going to find the 10 best fit. then going to announce a national challenge, and this is the first time I can actually officially announce that challenge, and we're going to call for teams to compete for the right to create a company around that invention. So let's say the invention is this iPhone. We're going to say, we have this iPhone, it's patented by NASA. We want teams to compete for the right to create a company around this, to become the next Apple. The teams will be defined in terms of you need a CEO, a CFO, a serial entrepreneur, a computer technologist, and maybe an engineer, and 3 students. We define the teams. The teams agree once they're formed to go through the process that we're going to take them for. We're hoping to get between 2 and 10 teams competing for every technology. Once the teams agree to go through our program, we take them through a 6-month accelerator training. This training will be web-based, so you can take it if you're in Juarez, you can take it if you're in El Paso. It will be mandatory training with homework assignments. All of the training goes towards building your business plan for this company. We will have a demo day. Here, let's go back. We'll have a demo day at the end of the year where all the teams show a panel of judges what their business plan is. We will select a winner for every technology. The winning team for each technology will be given 45% equity in the company and a $2,500 prize, which it's not about the prize. It's about 45% equity in this company. The MCA will retain 51% of equity, and we're taking 4% equity in every company, and we're going to spread it around all the regional universities so that all the universities in the region try to work together to help these companies succeed, whether it's marketing support, lab support, engineering support, whatever it might be. So that's part 1. That's the challenge. That's trying to create an event. At the end of 4 years, we will have created 40 startups in the technology sector in this region that makes sense for our region. Alongside that, we are going to try to raise a $10 million fund to fund the 10 to 12 strongest of the 40 companies. With that funding coming from local investors, we can keep those companies here. Some of the companies might get an investment from a venture capital firm in New York, and they may leave, which is fine. That happens. But we will have trained 300 to 500 people through this accelerator training per year. Our goal is to have 50% of the teams come from this region. So this is an exciting program. I'm thrilled to get started now that we have formal board approval today for the whole concept of creating 40 startup companies that hopefully create devices that we can manufacture in this region, in the maquilas that exist here today. It will be an exciting entrepreneurial event. We'll start putting out marketing materials really soon to promote this and start to recruit the teams. But all of these pieces are so important, whether it's the capital investment, whether it's creating campuses where we have all the pieces in one place for entrepreneurs to access in one location and facilitating that, whether it's focusing in on medical devices and not necessarily pharmaceuticals because we're not quite there yet. It's finding our focus, and then it's working together as a region that I think will truly distinguish us and make us a model that other communities are going to want to follow. Next slide. So our challenges and our goals, go on. Competition. There's over 25 MSAs in our country competing for the same industry space. But the good news is that growth is fundamental. Healthcare is growing. It's getting more and more exciting. As we do more with devices, there are endless opportunities in biomed. The reality is that entering biomedicine is very difficult. But as you see from the investments we've already made over the last 10 years, we've already achieved those first hurdles. We just need to continue on that path. And the opportunity is that our region can stand out because we are unique and we have a lot of great things going for us. And if we can figure out how to work together and market ourselves as one region, we can be very successful. Next slide. So in conclusion, the symbiotic relationship that we have here between Las Cruces, Juarez, and El Paso is going to become a major asset if we can figure out how to work together, both in research, in commercialization, and lastly, in manufacturing. That's it. Thank you.
Emma, muchísimas gracias también por darte el tiempo, venir a exponer aquí con nosotros en esta convención binacional. Con mucha atención escuchamos tu proyecto y mucho de ello coincidimos con esto, que es vivir esto como una región, los dos países, los tres estados, y estamos en el mismo canal. Es que muchísimas gracias. Te vamos a dar un reconocimiento de parte de Cancintra por tu participación, de parte de Héctor Camacho. Muchísimas gracias, Héctor Camacho y Viridiana González. Diana Vázquez. Ya le puse González.
¿Dónde?
Le puse. ¿Dónde?